Tonight, appreciate it. I know the weather has taken a turn for the worse, but fortunately, right here in North Township, it's warm in this facility. So glad you made it. Thank you for taking the time tonight. I know that's not always easy to do and carve out the time. So your being here shows that you're obviously interested and passionate about this topic of public transportation, and that's exactly what we want to capture tonight is your passion, your thoughts, your ideas about how to improve and enhance public transportation in Northwest Indiana. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being willing to share those thoughts. I'm Ty Warner, I'm Executive Director at NIRPC, and I'll talk a little bit more about what NIRPC is in just a minute, but let me real quick run down how things will happen tonight. The bulk of this evening will be Steve Walsh, who will introduce formally here in a minute from Lakeshore Public Radio. And he will take us through the facilitated discussion to hear what your thoughts are, comments, ideas, suggestions, and solutions. So that will be the bulk of the evening. But before we get there, we're giving some background information to transit in Northwestern Indiana. We'll have a quick welcome from Frank Van Jr. I'll talk a little bit about the background of NIRPC, what NIRPC is, how it's, what it does, why it exists. And then Linda Petrosky from our staff, NIRPC staff, will talk about the details of transit, how it gets funded, where transit, what the coverage area is in Northwestern Indiana. She will go over that. We will have a statement from Everybody Counts as well before we move on. And then after that, we will be into the whole discussion. And so you can percolate your ideas as you're hearing the background, and hopefully that will spark some thoughts that you will be willing to share. A couple of things I will say before I ask Frank to come up is everything that is happening tonight is being transcribed. There's a court stenographer right behind me. You can see what's happening on the screen. And that will be made available in a transcript format that will be posted on the NIRPC website, which is www.nirpc.org, NIRPC.org. As soon as we're able to post that, hit that back, we will post that up there. And also, this meeting is being videotaped, and that will also be posted on the website. So those will be made available. Once again, that's www.nirpc.org. All right, with that, let me turn it over to Trustee Frank Van Jr. and thank North Township for hosting us in this space.
Thank you. I want to welcome everyone here today, and I want to talk to you a little bit about, obviously I'm the North Township trustee, my name is Frank Van, and the state of affairs as far as public transportation goes in my world. So Dial-A-Ride in 2012 did about 12,000 rides. And Dial-A-Ride is an on-demand service. And when the RVA no longer had funding, NIRPC and I got together and we were able to get a CMAQ grant, which is a carbon monoxide reduction grant. Long story short is what that allows us to do is to be able to expand our services, and it is designed to allow us to set up a system that would allow us to go forward with funding. And so what we've done is we've added the amount of rides that we've had, we've increased the amount of hours that we provide service, we created a public-private partnership with AAA, and we were able, so that they handle our overflow. What we also have done is we were able to create a privatized dispatch center, because on average we received about 300 to 380 phone calls per day, and we also had outgoing calls to confirm, and we were unable to handle that volume. So we privatized that with Prompt Ambulance to be able to utilize their technology so that all those phone calls would be answered. The byproduct of that is that in 2014, this year, we are on target for doing 48,000 rides. So that means we pick you up, we take you to the store, we bring you back, that's 2 rides. And so what is going on is that's a microcosm of the public transportation in Lake County. And we have been able to set the table on what is to be expected when we look forward to a system, a regional system, on how you have to be the most efficient and economical ways possible. We're also looking and trying every day to bundle more riders on the bus. That means people have to allow more pickup time so that we drive down the cost per ride. So our ultimate goal is to be able to provide that service, and when we run out of money, we don't want to have to go to the old system of triaging or first one, first come as far as the priority list. There are a lot of people with dialysis, handicap, there are a lot of people going to the doctor's office, and the economy of transportation is, as a pharmaceutical sales rep, I used to go and I would be at doctor's offices every day, and people would be waiting hours for a ride. Either a neighbor or a son or a daughter or someone else would be picking that person up, or even sometimes a cab, and to be fit into that system, it would take hours. So today's meeting, I want to be very passionate, second one. So I want to reiterate that the time has come where we need a regional transportation system that allows us to be able to provide the efficiencies of transportation. And if it's a hybrid between public and private partnership, that's what needs to be done. Currently, as far as fixed routes, buses, you have GPTC, Gary, and East Chicago are the last people standing. So when you have that, that is the foundation in which we have to operate. There are also 3 on-demand, 4 on-demand services, and we also have Valparaiso, which is, their numbers have increased too. But the bottom line is that in every thriving community in America, there's a transportation system that lifts people up, creates an economic bridge between jobs and people, and it also creates mobility and freedom for people. So this meeting is specifically about a decree with everybody counts, or everyone counts, and NIRPC. One, I used an example earlier this afternoon, Raymond Fletcher. He's a friend of mine that needed transportation very often to get to different functions and different meetings. We did everything we can to do that. And when Ray would show up, he was a paraplegic in a wheelchair. When he would show up, he never wanted people to say, oh, that's great that you're here, or pay special attention to him. All that he wanted to have accomplished was that he wanted the right and the freedom to have the mobility and a system that was reliable enough to get him from point A to point B. And I think that's all what we're looking for. We're looking for a system that provides the most efficient transportation possible, that includes everyone's opinions, and also not empathize with, but realize that there are handicapped individuals that need to be recognized, and they have a right to have the freedom to mobility. We have, I believe, over 6 or 7 major universities in our region. Purdue Cal, IUN, Kaplan, Valparaiso, Ivy Tech, that's off the top of my head. In order to increase those numbers, in order to provide an educational system, they're on board. Those chancellors know if you have a reliable public transportation system, it increases their enrollment. And when you have people going to college, because there's a transportation system, the output is that you have an educated workforce that brings in more development. So at the very base of our economic development foundation, public transportation must be something that we put forth going forward. NIRPC has new leadership with Mr. Ty Warren. And what I'm saying here, when we get down to the bottom line of what this meeting is about, and I said this earlier, is that with a new leader, you have new beginnings. And we hope that this meeting brings together a consensus and collaboration moving forward, so that we have economic development driven by NIRPC, with collaboration with everybody counts, and making sure that we're going down the path, that we realize everybody's needs, and we work together to do that. I welcome you to Wicker Park. I'll be here for the majority of the rest of the meeting. If you have any questions for me, please ask. And I thank you guys for participating in the system. And as a leader in the community, I am going to commit myself to doing everything I can to keep putting transportation on the table and seeing that we move it forward. Thank you.
Very good. As Frank alluded to, this meeting stems out of a settlement agreement with Everybody Counts, a legal action that they took, and we agreed to hold this meeting mutually thinking that this could be an opportunity to give great background on how transit works, what's needed to be able to expand transit in Northwest Indiana, and as a forum to be able to get your thoughts and ideas, which is why we're here tonight. Let me give you some background on NIRPC, for those of you that don't know what that is. I know the first time I heard that, I thought that was a pretty funny acronym, actually. It used to be the Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission, so you had NIPSI and NIRPC across the state line. NIPC changed, NIRPC still exists. Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission has been around since 1965. And its primary function is it is the Council of Governments for Northwestern Indiana. And it covers a 3-county area. So Lake, not just Lake County, but Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties. So all 41 municipalities within that 3-county area, and those 3 counties themselves, all have representatives from these municipalities and counties that are on the board of NIRPC. It is your elected officials that you elect that come to NIRPC and deliberate on things that are bigger than any one community. So things that are bigger than themselves, regional in nature, there's a place for everybody to come to the table and talk about those things. That's essentially what NIRPC is at its core. It serves a very important federal function as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. And I promise, I think that's the last acronym that I'm going to throw at you this evening. But the MPO is a legally required entity whenever an area anywhere in the United States exceeds 50,000 in population, in urban areas specifically. But over 50,000, an MPO gets formed and gets designated. That serves the function in very simple terms of taking federal funds, federal transportation funds, and bringing them to the local level where locally decisions can be made on what to do with those federal funds. An important thing to note in that whole picture, which I realized when I talk to folks about MPOs isn't always clear where these funding things come from, is that it's not as if NIRPC, although there is a lot of money involved in what NIRPC touches, it's not as if NIRPC is sitting on a large pile of cash just deciding what to dole out. There is a match requirement. NIRPC helps access federal funds. So on the local level, you have to generate those local funds, identify those local sources of funding, and then NIRPC can help access the federal funds by matching those local funds to what's available on the federal level. That's how we get road projects funded, that's how we get transit funded. And that's really essentially the mechanics of this. So when we look for solutions, that's what we need to try to think about, is how do we find those sources of funding, as well as make all the dots connect and connect the pieces to try to grow a regional transit system in Northwestern Indiana and enhance the systems that we have. So with that said, let me turn it over to Belinda Petrosky. She is our transit planner at NIRPC, and Belinda will take you through a walk through transit funding and how it works. I will mention with this PowerPoint, if it's not already on the NIRPC website, it will be there very soon. And anyone who wants a copy of this PowerPoint, we can make it available to you in whatever format you need. Especially if you need a large print or something, we can make that available. That said, Belinda will describe everything on every slide. So it's not as if you won't be able to get the information that's on that slide if you have trouble seeing it. And here is the microphone.
Thank you very much. Let me get over here and get my little clicker. I'm going to go through these slides. It's basically Public Transit 101. For those of you who don't know some of the more esoteric details, but important ones. Let me get out of the way. Okay. Uh-oh.
Are we in anybody's way? No.
I was
I'm
in.
asking them.
Oh.
Are we in the way of anybody's? Okay, thanks.
There's a show. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Don't touch the projector. Okay. Ty just talked a little bit about our MPO role, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. That designation requires us to do certain things, the most important of which are develop the long-range transportation plan, and that plan contains goals and objectives and priorities, expansions. The short-range plan transportation improvement program contains the criteria. That's where the criteria are developed based on the goals and objectives and priorities, and then the project selection and programming. That's how we determine where the transit money, in this case transit or the highway or bridge, the different funding activities, how they get selected. Our second role is something that's not done by all the MPOs. We are a designated recipient. What that means is that we file a grant or grants to the Federal Transit Administration on behalf of 7 of the public transit operators. Quite a while ago, FTA came to NIRPC and asked us to do this because they didn't want to take a lot of grants from small providers. So we do a consolidated grant. And that means we have some responsibilities and duties, including administrative oversight of the operators for compliance with federal rules and regulations, including the ADA, receive and pass through funds for all 7, and we submit an annual grant application and then conduct the financial oversight and the quarterly reports for that. How it's funded. Basically, there are 3 sources routinely shared across the board by all operators. Some operators will have other sources as well, depending on what they're doing. Local support comes from a variety of places. Each operator, depending on where they are, gets it from different sources. But generally, it includes fares, municipal property taxes, other federal programs, county economic development income tax, the seated, or county property taxes. State support comes from Public Mass Transit Fund, which is a small portion of the sales tax dedicated to public transit, and then federal support from the Federal Transit Administration. And then under state support, NICD, the South Shore, also has a dedicated source of funds that are sales tax based. Types of transit, there are lots and lots of different types of transit out there, but basically we have 4 here in the region. Fixed route, which most of you would recognize as established routes and stops and fares. The complementary paratransit, that's a requirement from the ADA that fixed route operators have to follow, where they have to provide service in the same vicinity that they're providing the fixed route for folks who cannot get out to the bus stop. Now, those riders have to qualify for the service. You have to have your doctor fill out the forms, and then registered. Then you're registered. Then you can. That's a curb-to-curb or door-to-door service if you cannot access the fixed route regular stops. Demand response. Available in areas, several different areas in the region, and it may be available to the general public, or it can be limited to elderly and disabled, and then the fares and hours are set individually by each operator. And then we have, of course, commuter and passenger rail. Existing operators, we have what the direct recipients, sorry. That means these entities apply directly to FTA for their federal funds, and that's the Gary Public Transportation Corporation, Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, or South Shore, and Michigan City Transit. Our sub-grantees or sub-recipients, the ones that NIRPC applies for the funding for, are East Chicago Transit, North Township Dial-A-Ride, South Lake County Community Services, Opportunity Enterprises, Porter County Aging and Community Services, Valparaiso Transit, and LaPorte Transport. Northwest Indiana gets between $10.5 and $11.5 million annually in the 5307 program, which is the primary source of federal money that the operators use to basically maintain and operate their systems. So it's operating money. PM is preventive maintenance, and then capital. The Lake County operators amounts that they get from the program, starting with Gary Public Transportation gets about $5.2 million. In 14, the South Shore got $3.5 million. East Chicago, $603,000. South Lake County Community Services, $533,000. And North Township dial-a-ride, 181,000. Section, 5307 in Porter County, Valparaiso, for both their fixed route and their Chicago Dash service, they get 695,000. Porter County, for their demand response, gets 311,953. And Opportunity Enterprises, also demand response, gets 215,000. On this we're showing how reliant the operators are on different segments of the funding stream here. In 2012, the fixed route and complementary paratransit, as you see, it was 44% federally funded, 40% local money, and 16% from the state. The 2013 numbers are similar, although they got more federal money, which and needed less local money, and state stayed the same. Demand response, on the other hand, is a lot more dependent on the local funding, as you see there, 57%. Federal is only 21%, and they get a little more state help at 22%. And in 2013, not much difference. State percent went up to 31%, so local came down to 41%. A little more federal at 28%. These are the ridership numbers for 2012 and 2013. I included them in here just to show the systems are fairly stable. They're doing, they're providing consistent numbers, and all of them do a whole lot more with a lot more money. So you see, NICD, of course, is the big operation in the 3-county area, of course, at 3.6 million both years, a little bit less in 13. GPTC doing well at 719,000 for 2013, an increase over 12. East Chicago showing a slight increase over 12, and Valparaiso's gone up considerably and continues to do so. Opportunity Enterprises also about a 5,000 rider increase. South Lake County Community Services, a slight decrease. And if you look at Porter County Community Services, both register a decline in ridership, and both experienced problems in 2013 with funding. So you see a decrease in service reflected there. And then North Township, of course, you heard Frank talk about the increase. That's just 1 year from 10,994 in 12, and they were up to 32,999 in 13, and taken over what was the RBA service area. Michigan City and LaPorte, ridership again very stable and going up slightly. So we can show a demonstrated continuing ongoing need for transit. Total ridership by bus and demand response, 1.3 million, for a little bit over for 13, and then the NICD number. Where is transit available? Transit is available where people will pay for it. That's important to understand. Where people have committed to paying for it with the local match. LaPorte County, you see the fixed route transit, Michigan City. The city of LaPorte has a demand response. Porter County fixed route is the Valparaiso line there, and then the hash mark box there on the right shows that demand response is available countywide from those two providers there. Lake County fixed route, you see Gary and East Chicago routes there. And Gary dropping down to Crown Point and through Maryville there. And then Lake County demand response and paratransit. You can see the blue area, both in the county inset and then the other side. That South Lake County serves about 2/3 of Lake County. The only place they don't go is Gary and North Township. And if you look at this over here, the hash marks and everything, that's service in the complementary paratransit area. You have to go 3/4 of a mile on either side of your route. And then East Chicago, their 3/4 mile boundary up there. And then gives you that funky green color. That means there's also on top of that then the North Township dial-a-ride. So you've got lots of transit available. Is it enough? No. We could use more. How to contact NIRPC? There we are. NIRPC by email, nirpc@nirpc.org. Our telephone number, 219-763-6060. And then the postal, our address, 6100 Southport Road, Portage, Indiana. I'm sorry, I forget about, yeah, we're online. www.nirpc.org. We're on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you, Belinda. I'm sure that's may have generated a lot of questions and a lot of fodder for discussion, but I'd ask you to be patient for just a little bit because you'll have the opportunity to have as much discussion as you care to have. Let me hand the microphone to Executive Director of Everybody Counts, Teresa Torres.
Thank you, and I am going to be brief, but some of your faces I know, some of them I don't, and some people who talked on the phone. So I wanted to make sure you understood, we're more than just the people that bought the pizza that was there when you came in. Everybody Counts is a nonprofit agency, and we've been fighting for the rights of people with disabilities and senior citizens for the last 25 years. We're very proud of the positive relationships and collaboration that we have with a number of entities in the community. We also take very great pride in anything that we're directly involved in. So it was important, and my board asked me to clarify that there's been some misinformation out there that indicated that we were involved or that we were co-hosting or co-sponsoring this event. While that's incorrect, we certainly appreciate NIRPC's willingness to let us provide these statements and participate to the extent that we have. The first thing I want to do, I really want to thank, because I didn't get the chance this morning, to thank Township Trustee Frank Mervan Jr. for setting such an amazingly right-on tone for our meeting. That was just awesome. There's a quick history. The reason we're here today is because the lawsuit was filed. About 20 years ago, we started hearing from people with disabilities and people who were senior citizens at Everybody Counts, and they were having some real problems with the transit systems. Aside from the fact that they were fragmented, they were having some trouble with compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which, as some of you know, will be 25 years old next year. Some of the people who, in order to file a class action lawsuit, you have to have people that are willing to put their name on the dotted line. And we want to recognize and acknowledge those people who did so. That was kind of a scary thing. I'm sure you can understand that. And so I want to acknowledge them. And none of our efforts on behalf of the class, people with disabilities and senior citizens in Lake County, would have been possible without the ongoing pro bono, that means free, for y'all that don't know pro bono, support from the law firm of Jenner & Block, and our attorney, Mr. Steve Cyrus, is here with us this evening. And we want to thank him so much for his help. Our primary goal was ADA compliance, but we also hope to get the local transit providers and decision makers, funders, to understand how very important it was not only to comply with the ADA, but also to work with the people that we said were the real stakeholders, and that's you guys. The people who need public transit, who use public transit. And the good news is that's happening in some circles. We hope it will continue. Gary Public Transit, the North Township Trustees Dollar-Ride Service, and East Chicago Public Transit are working directly with representatives of the disability community, sitting down, working monthly, and together they have gotten a great deal accomplished. Some of you here rode the bus out to the fair, and that was a direct result of their collaboration. So, sometimes, some people say that things will never change, but I think we all agree it's time for them to change here. And so we know you've got important things to say. We're going to encourage you, please don't be intimidated by language or terms you don't understand. You are the real stakeholders here. So be sure to share your thoughts and your ideas, because we need them. You guys are the real important folks. These guys are here to serve you. They can't do that without you letting them know what you need. So please do that tonight. Thanks.
All right, at this point, that's a lot of good background information, I hope. I'm going to now turn it over to Steve Walsh from Lakeshore Public Media, who has very graciously agreed to facilitate tonight, and giving the microphone to him. We will also have, wherever Alan is, Alan will be roving around with this microphone to help with the projection of whatever questions, comments, ideas, etc. you have in the context of it. Steve Walsh from Lakeshore Public Media.
Thanks, Tony. Yes, I'm Steve Walsh with Lakeshore Public Radio. I'm a journalist, and I host their daily public affairs show, Regionally Speaking, at 1 o'clock. So we actually recorded a show between sessions, and that'll be airing tomorrow at 1 o'clock if you're interested in listening in. It's been a pretty spirited debate so far, a discussion. A lot of good information came out of the first session. I expect great things here. I'm going to try to keep as light a footprint as humanly possible. I'll try to interject as little as I can. There are certain ground rules. We're supposed to stick to 3 minutes. And we were pretty liberal about that in the last session. Really, the idea is that everybody gets a chance to speak at least once before we worry about somebody speaking twice, and we'll try to, give enough time for everybody to speak. Other than that, the whole idea behind this, I think they already indicated, this is all about trying to find out people's opinions of the service the way it is right now, as well as thoughts on how it might be improved or how it might change. And so let's get right to it. We just have people go ahead and raise their hands when they're interested in talking. Right in the front row.
Hi, I'm Shirley. Hi, I'm Shirley Gibson. I live in Hammond. I don't drive. It's been very wonderful knowing that we have great people to help us. The township has been fantastic. And Gary works, I can't tell you how happy I am with these buses coming in. We do need more buses running in more areas, because it's horrible when you have no transportation and you cannot get out. You feel like you're a prisoner in your own home. So we're just happy, and we just want things to get better. And one of the things I can suggest right now is with the Gary transportation is there is not enough advertisement about it. There are so many people who do not know about the bus. You talk to them and they look at you with a puzzled look. Now there are places like Straps, and there are Walmart, there's Ultra, there's libraries, there are YMCAs. There are places where information could be posted where the general public could see it, because not everybody has a computer at their disposal. So there needs to be much more information out there, and as far as the township, they do put the information out in free little flyers and papers, as well as through the mail to us. I'm just so happy for what we have, and I'm looking forward to the hopes that we can have more service down the road. Thank you. I use Dial-A-Ride at least 6-7 times a month. I use Gary buses at least 3 times a week. I mean, they're there, and I'm going to use them, and I tell everybody, hey, get out there and support Gary buses. And support the township, because the township does a fantastic job for all of us. Because I myself, I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for the township stepping up to the plate. I would have had to move completely out of the area. So they're appreciated, and so is Gary appreciated, and this meeting is appreciated. Thank you very much.
Who's next?
Alice Flores. I am the wife of John R. Flores.
Can't hear you.
That has been dead now. That has been dead now 10 years. So we don't have a precinct committee meeting anymore. And in North Hammond, I'm living in the most polluted section that you could imagine. I lived there all my life. I'm 75 years old, and I've been walking 2.5 years wherever I want to go, because sometimes I can make a call and or they don't want to come, or so I go walking. And as for funding, he got rid of all the businesses in downtown Hammond. But now he's got big money making recyclers and gunpowder providers and the Phillips that he put around all our South Shore. And all these are severely dangerous. There's families there, at least mine are fully grown and gone. But I care for my neighbors. They still have little kids.
You've lived in this area for a long time, but you've been walking, you said, the last 2.5 years? Why?
Yes, I've been living there since 1950.
So what happened in the last 2.5 years?
And the 2.5 years, there has been many, well, you just got to come to my house and see all the damage that was done. There was a commune house. They used to have people, they used to party right in my front yard. And then one day the federal come and pick them up. I'm not used to it. And now I have a recycler. And he's not the owner. The owner lives in Florida. And I told him, if you put so much cement, you're in enough place to put a condemned house and work 2.5 years that house. He's got gutters right and left. And I told him, you better remove your gutters because it's affecting my furnace.
So you got some issues that are going on with your neighborhood. And
Yes.
Transit is one of them.
So we have a lot of problems in that corner. And nobody, ever since my husband died, they said, we don't have a prison committee members active. The one they gave me, the operator says, this is a guy that's drunk all the time, don't even call. He's not all there. Yeah, and this Bible, I have a lot of problems and I wanted to see them solved before I die. I pay $1,000 in my house for what? I went to the state and farm and they just ignored me. They said, talk to the South Shore. I went to the South Shore. I talked to the city. So I went from one to one and nobody has helped me. Nobody. And so I'm 75, I could die anything. But I don't want that place to be the way it was. Because the recycler does whatever he wants. Okay? And there's a money maker. There's another money maker. And then the gunpowder, I walked all the way and I sold them. The gunpowder factory is matches and gunpowder, and it's all kinds of garbage that they burn, just like in steel, and there's pollution. God knows what it is.
All right, so you kind of feel you're not being listened to for a variety of reasons.
But yes, I went to the mayor and he didn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to talk to me. So I said, eventually I'll get it out. And I want to get it out before I die because that corner, oh, and the latest, we had a tremor from the South Shore. The earth moved. And now the South Shore said it never happened. We tried the woman across the street from me and gave her a fence and gave her some side and fix the side of the house. And me, no. Okay? And I ended up with a crack right in the middle of my furnace. Because the furnace, the shirt came out and there's a halo where it came out because of the excessive water coming from the side.
Okay. All right.
And I just need help, and I went to lawyers, but in Hammond, everybody says they can help me.
It sounds like you've got a lot of issues, I'm not sure
Yes,
that they're totally transit related,
yes.
but
And then, the only way I could get away, I used to go to Whiting, I used to go to Munster. I had my doctors all in Munster, and all the ones in Whiting. I haven't seen a doctor in a long time.
because you can't get it.
Yes, because there's no transportation. And then I said, there's people that are more sick than me, and I said, well, it's all right.
You say you live in North Township, you live in Hammond?
And Old Hammond is the.
Do you ever use the trustees' dial-up service?
Well, yes, sometimes.
But they can't get you to your doctor appointment?
And the doctors, well, they didn't want to go to Munster anymore, to 45, 7, 15, 45 streets. They used to leave me by the South Shore, and I had to walk over. But it was okay, at least I had a ride before. And now, no.
All right.
No. And you can talk them into it, And I'm tired of trying. So I said, this is my last time that we can have to get the bus. We need it. My husband would expect it of me. I have 2 children in Afghanistan, one, Andrew, and Polly is in New Mexico right now. They're taking after my husband. Okay.
Well, thank you.
And my husband said,
Who's next?
that's why I'm here. I says, if I can help, I will.
My name is Phyllis, and I live in North Hammond, and I'm getting tired all the time, at least 4 times a week, of having to walk 15 blocks to get downtown Hammond, the Strax grocery store, to get the Gary bus if I want to go to Walmart. And so far, the Gary bus has been great. It takes us to a lot of areas in South Hammond. North Hammond, they don't worry about us. And once I get the Strax, if I want to go to Illinois and go to a Pace bus, I got better service in Illinois to the Pace buses to get right to the front door of every store I want to go to that I can't get to in Hammond or in the Sherrville area or Griffin or wherever I want to go in Indiana. And I'm spending more of my money in Illinois, and I like to spend it more in the local area. And I'm getting tired of walking 15 blocks, round trip.
So it's easier for you to connect and just go into Illinois.
And
then
before
you can go
Gary
shopping.
came and helped us, I would have to take the South Shore train, go to East Chicago, wait an hour for the East Chicago bus just to get to the Hammond Walmart before the Gary buses came. And that's how I solved my problem. But still, it was easier in Illinois to go to the Walmart store because the bus went to the front door.
So how long does it take you to get to Walmart from your house to North Hammond?
But when I did take the East
Walmart.
Chicago bus to get to Walmart, an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
But I got to the front door of Walmart. But now I take the Gary bus because it's a lot easier.
And that's allowed.
But the East Chicago bus and the train was more reliable.
Okay.
And I wish they would get the buses back in Hammond the way they were 3 years ago, because then they were almost perfect. They only had 2 problems.
All right, tell me the 2 problems.
That's all I got to say.
Oh, that's all you got to say. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Who's next?
Just let me know the way I like.
Hi, my name is Latasha Robertson, and I stay in North Hammond. 3 years ago, we had transportation to get to the little places that it did take us. Them taking away the bus service was bad for me, for the simple fact, both my sons go to Hammond High School. There's only one school bus that goes to Hammond High School. And because we are not in their radius, my boys are not allowed to get on the bus to go to school. So they're walking 13 blocks to school and 13 blocks home from school, because we are a quarter mile off from them getting on the school bus.
13 blocks away and you can't get on the school bus.
No, you have to be 1.5 miles. We are 1.4 point something miles. But it bothers me the most. I'm seeing all these elderly people out here walking. That's a sad thing to see. The aid office, the dialysis center, the Social Security office, everything is downtown Hammond. They have no way to get there. I'm watching these people walk on a daily basis, walking downtown Hammond. But it's like I said, it's more so about my boys. When the winter time comes, what parent wants their child walking in the snow and miss, have to miss days because there's blizzards outside or the snow is too deep or it's too cold, and they can't get on the bus because it's a quarter of a mile off. We need the buses. It's the reason we need them.
What do you think would work?
I don't know. I think more fundraisers. If the city of Hammond came together and worked as a city and just not dependent on the federal and local alone, because that's really not working. They're really not listening to us. They really don't care. They have their cars. They got gas money. They got a way to get to work. It's us, the people who don't have it, that doesn't have it. So them are the people that need to come together, and we need to do whatever it takes, pot stickers or potluck or whatever it takes, any kind of event to raise money, because we need the buses.
Do people go to Hammond City Hall? Do they talk? I mean, they're.
You only talk to the mayor on mayor's night. That's the only way you're gonna ever reach him.
Have you been to any? Do you talk about this?
I've been to them. I've been to mayor's night. Nothing has changed. You can go to City Hall. They give you a run around. They tell you go talk to this office or go talk to this person, go talk to that person. And by the time the day over with, you've been there a full-time job, just trying to get a bus. That's right. And that's sad because you working for us. We paying taxes. I pay taxes in my house. I pay taxes to live there, and there's no way that something I say should be ignored.
I don't know if I pointed it out, but also the folks from NIRPC here, they'll answer questions if they can. If it's in their purview, they'll take questions. So if you have them, feel free to express them. Who's next? Bro. Don't be shy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Renee Jackson. I work for Everybody Counts. I am an advocate for people with disabilities and seniors, and I am an advocate for transportation. I believe with all my heart that we need a regional public transportation system. We need NIRPC support to support Erie Public Transportation, who is the largest system that's already in place. That it just makes more sense. Why do you reinvent the wheel when you already have it? All we need is somebody to help push the wheel along. They have the equipment, they have the buses, they have the facilities to take care of the buses, they have the staff. So there's no logical reason that they wouldn't be the ones that you would turn to do your make your regional be your regional transit people. Everything is fragmented now. You need one system where you can make one phone call, you have the same hours of service, you're talking to folks from all across different communities, and they're taking you to and from different places. And it's just one local thing, not having to call this thing and connect with this company and then wait 3 hours and connect with that company, which is one regional system would work beautifully for everybody and make it a whole lot easier for our community.
Hi, my name is Carl. I'd like to see a couple of different things. Better or more frequent service or better service to connect to the Chicago transit system. Even if we had maybe on a half-hour bus service from, let's say, like the Dan Raven Plaza in Hammond to the 95th Street Red Line, something so we can get into the city. The other thing I'm concerned about, or a personal issue, is the East Chicago bus system does not have bike racks on the front of the buses. And it seems like every other bus system I've ever seen has bike racks, and I don't know why. The East Chicago bus stops like 4 blocks from my house, and I can't use it. Take my bike and get up further north, or the route could be adjusted. I'm not sure, why we don't have that ability to put our bikes on the front of the buses.
How often do you use public transit right now? Do you use the buses?
I'm sorry, you have to.
I said, how often do you use the buses right now?
Not as often as I'd like. I probably would be more apt to use the transportation if it was, how would you say, if it connected better to my needs.
And a lot of that's just revolving around, you need to be able to get into Chicago.
Correct, and yeah, I work up in the city, and it's difficult for me to get there. It would also be nice to get up there on the weekends even, some sort of Saturday service that we could connect up into the city.
How do you get to work now if you don't use the buses?
I have somebody that, can drive me, up to like the train station, or, I just try to get up there myself. Like I said, the Chicago bus stops, but it is only from the Kmart Plaza in Griffith, and it only takes you to the South Shore Station. The route doesn't come back, and then the route from the South Shore Station goes up, and it takes a route through the town of East Chicago and through the harbor, and then it comes all the way back to Griffith.
So it's a big loop. So you live all the way in Griffith, but you still...
I live right in Highland, right off of Clyde Avenue.
But you are able to make use of some of the bus services. Just a little bit,
I appreciate that they finally got the bus system going again. I can take it from Ultra, and head north, that way. But the East Chicago bus is literally like 2-3 blocks from my house.
Okay. So a lot of times you just end up making a friend here to get you to work and everything.
I do whatever I can, to get up there.
You're really nice to that guy. All right. Who's next? I know everybody came out a weekday here in the evening I know probably wanted to say something. Even Dennis Rittmeyer wanted to say something. All right. Dennis? Do you know anything about buses, Dennis?
No.
No, my name is Dennis Rittmeyer. For those of you that don't know the joke, I chaired the Regional Bus Authority for about 10 years, and today we're worse off than we were when I started. I'm not proud of that fact. The position I have, I do have a question, Steve. I'm going to end with a question, but I have a couple of things to say first. My current position is Executive Director of One Region, which is a 3-county-wide effort to get elected officials and others to, as I refer to it, play nice in the sandbox and get something done that improves the quality of life for our citizens. Our most recent report, 2012, had trend indicators on the 10 indicators of quality of life. Transportation was one of 2 of 10 that was a negative trend line. In other words, we're worse off now than we were 10 years ago. I want to commend Trustee Frank Morvan, not for the use of this room, although that was very nice of you, Frank. Thank you very much. But for what he said, because he was the first person to say what we need is a regional system. A regional system that makes it possible for people to go where they need to go with a minimum amount of hassle. And, there aren't a lot of elected officials here. I would commend NIRPC Chairman Mayor Brian Snedecor for being here today. I've worked with the mayor over the years, and he has been an advocate for regional transportation. I grew up in his city. And I used to be able to take a Gary public transportation bus from Hobart to downtown Gary, where my father's business was, before I was old enough to drive a car.
I do not want a bus. You listen to me and don't ever talk to me. I don't want it, and you will not have it.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't understand you. May I finish?
Yes, and it's not an advocate. He does not want the bus. I don't know why.
I'm not sure.
She's basically telling you
that she feels that the mayor is the one that got the buses out of Hammond, and
Not this mayor.
no, not him. She thinks you're talking about McDermott,
Oh.
and that's what she's trying to say.
Well, Mayor McDermott, to be fair, Mayor McDermott yielded his system to the then Regional Bus Authority that ran the system better in the sense of more efficiency, more economies, more services, that was run under the auspices of the then Regional Bus Authority, which, because our elected officials, your representatives, your elected officials, would not come up with the money, failed. That's why we don't have that bus system. Now, to their credit, GPTC is running what they can of that service right now. But here's my question. I didn't tell you I had a question, Steve. Here's my question. And I would love to have somebody in this room answer this question. Does anybody seated here today, do any of you care what name is on the side of the bus? No. Tell me if you do. Does anybody care what name is on the side of the bus?
No.
Okay, Steve, I hope you report that. No one cares. No one cares. And yet, we continue to fight among ourselves over who's going to run transportation. And the end result is, as has been said many times, we have a fragmented system with different providers providing services in a relatively small geographic area that requires you as users to negotiate with different providers to go across community lines. The only people who care about these political jurisdictions, the only people are elected officials. You think about where you live, where you work if you do, where you access medical care, where you shop. You go back and forth across those boundaries all the time. But our public transportation systems don't do that. So it's a horrific mismatch. It has been for years, and it's not getting any better. One way for it to get better is for you to contact your elected officials and make it clear to them you don't care whose name is on the side of the bus. You want to be able to go where you need to go and when you need to get there. That's been the problem. It continues to be the problem. And the answer is our local branch. Thank you.
I understand the part you say, I don't even need no microphone. I don't understand
Yeah.
the part.
This is being recorded, so yeah, we definitely need to use a microphone.
I can totally understand where he's coming from when he was talking about the elected officials. But every elected official you talk to, pretty much they feed you the same line. You can't. I'm not a Democratic or Republican or whatever they want to be. My thing is, we are human beings. We humans just like everybody else. If you got a way, if I got a job, I'm telling you I got a job. But I'm telling you that I'm down on my luck and all I need is a start to get me a car to not be able to have to depend on that bus again. I should not have to go to 15 different offices or talk to we or the people that's at odds with each other in order to get some kind of help to get to this job so I can be self-sufficient. That's all I'm saying. I don't care who names goes on the bus. What I'm saying is if I go to you as my elected official and I say, I got a $15 an hour job, I want to be a self-sufficient, independent person. I don't want to have to be on welfare. I don't want to get food stamps. I don't want to have to depend on township, bless their heart. It should be, as my elected official, you say, let me go take a vote and see how many other people feel like this or in the same position so we can get them some help. That's what I'm saying.
Suspended my rule of having everybody talk once before people talk again, but that's fine.
Hi, I'm new to this cause. I'm not really familiar with any solutions or anything, but I recently became a staffing supervisor, so I both directly and indirectly help a lot of the people, the elderly and disabled, in the Hammond, East Chicago area, also a little bit in Gary, sometimes in Portage. It's a home care agency. And the biggest problem I have found that I cannot help anyone with is transportation. We don't just have people who need to go to the store to buy the things they need. We don't just have people who need to go get their pharmaceuticals from the pharmacy. We have people who actively have cancer and have not had their chemo port flushed in 4 months because the closest people to them work during the day because they're their neighbors. You know, they have friends, but their friends can't drive. We have people who cannot visit their husbands in nursing homes and are devastated because every time they see them, their rapid decline has become so severe. We have people who are approved for free dentures when they need them, but they can't get from Hammond to the nearest dental office that will do this for them is in Crown Point, and they have no way to get there. That was my breaking point where I said, I need to figure this out because I had a client lived in Hammond, could not get to Crown Point. The closest I could find for him was a minimum of $25 for the first 10 miles. After that, it's per mile. And they don't have any money. These people are getting funding from the, well, people are not. We are paid by the state to help these people. They don't have $100 laying around to put a deposit down on some transportation company. AAA Transportation has been wonderful as far as I've seen. I've had to go out in the field and help people get to their doctor's appointments, but legally I cannot drive them because of my position. AAA Transportation, your best bet is if you have Medicare. If you don't qualify for Medicare, if your payer source is choice SSBG, I know some of this doesn't make any sense to any of you, but if your payer source is not Medicare, chances are you cannot get AAA transportation unless you pay for it. And if you pay for it, you may not be able to buy food. You may not be able to pay for the prescriptions that are covered by your insurance. There are several problems that are all directly connected to transportation. And it kills me every day when I have someone who cannot get to the doctor appointment because they have no way to be transported there. Their family lives in Ohio, or, you know, they don't have any money. Some of these people are all alone on their own. So there needs to be a solution, and it does have to be regional. It has to be countywide, because I cannot tell you how disheartening it is to tell this person that they cannot get to their very important doctor appointment 3 towns over because I can't give them the transportation myself, and there's no one else who can do it for them for free.
Are you from this area?
I live in Lansing, however, I work in Indiana. I work in Cherville. We service basically all of Lake County, and we do have a few people in Porter County.
So
We
this
work with
wasn't your
9.
experience over there in Illinois, in Lansing.
This is,
Like the transportation in Lansing.
yeah, I don't know about the transportation in Lansing specifically, because I've never needed it. But that's, you know, that's not my point. There are people who need this, and there is no system that is working for many of my clients.
You thought about driving people yourself to some of these appointments, but just with liability and everything, you can't do it.
Yes, legally with my job, I cannot do it and admit to it and keep it.
Okay.
Because there's the liability of it and things. Plus, most of these doctor's appointments are during my 9 to 5 workday.
So what are these people doing? You said some people are just skipping their treatments or not?
Yes, I have a woman who has not been to the doctor in 7 months. And like I said, 4 months since her last chemo flush. And she actively has cancer. There's no reason she should be missing these appointments. And, you know, these people just need these services. We do, my staff are able to run errands for these people, but, you know, we're getting funding from the state that gives them a total of hours by the month. So if you have 20 hours a month, that averages out to about 5 hours a week. And you wouldn't think it takes anything if you have your own car and you drive to the store and you pick up your pharmaceuticals, or you drive and you get your toilet paper that you ran out of, or just doing a regular grocery shopping. I don't know about you guys, but when I had to shop for a whole household, it took me 2 hours in the store alone. So when you've got 2 days of service, that's 2.5 hours at a time. On a month like November, when you only have 4 days each weekday. That's not a lot of time to get to and from a doctor appointment where you have to wait extra time, where you have to see the doctor. And most of the time you're in the doctor's office, the actual room. How many times are you sitting there for 20 minutes before he comes in? How much of that time is actually spent with the doctor? And then you have to wait on AAA transportation or some other transportation company to take you back.
The state will pay to have you come there and kind of help them as much as you can, but it won't pay to get them to a doctor.
From what I understand, the state no longer funds transportation.
Okay.
But again, I am new to the cause, I'm new to this area in Indiana. This is a fairly new job for me. I've only been in this position 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
So,
But it's been a rough 4 or 5 months, when,
yes.
at least when you look at
Yes.
transportation. Okay. All right, who's next?
I wanted to ask you a question. See why he dropped the second district? The second district is no more. I said, wait a minute. When he has the meetings, there's never one for second, which is third, 5, you know.
Mayor's not out.
Yes.
All right.
So there's
My name is Ken Stevenson. I live in Cherville, Indiana. I'm the owner of Classic Taxi out of Cherville. We run all over Lake County, someone into Illinois, someone into Porter County. My thought is, like you said, we need to have a regional transportation system. We need to think regionally. We need to be all on the same page in music. What that means is we shouldn't necessarily have Gary or East Chicago or Hammond or whatever. We probably should be PACE and Metro. And the NIRPC and the Chicago Metropolitan Planning Commission should be working together to expand the Metro and the PACE system over here. That way we would all have bus system of at least of the same quality that they have in Illinois.
Wait a minute, we can't even go from East Chicago to Munster, but you're going to go across the state line?
What I'm saying is the planning and the expansion and how they work out how it should be expanded would be under the realm of PACE. We would turn the control over to PACE. It wouldn't be under Hammond, wouldn't be under NIRPC, it would be under PACE and Metro. And that way it would be truly a regional transportation authority. It wouldn't, you know, we talked about whether the boundary is there. There's a boundary at the state line too. And people in Hammond should be able to move as easy to Calumet City as they do to East Chicago. I mean, they're right next to each other. What difference does it make if it's a state line or a county line or a city line? Should be able to go both ways. And then when that system comes over here, there's buses in Illinois. The cost to run a bus in Illinois is half the cost to the government of what it is here. They run buses much more efficiently than we do here, as far as the cost per rider. So that's what I'm saying. We should use their talent, their planning, their experience to do that. When they expand, you know, we're talking about putting a South Shore line for the first time in 30 years. They've sent out 11 lines. They have 11 times more experience than we have. And the same thing with buses. Their buses have expanded. If you look at Naperville and Aurora, they have 350,000 people. About this, with the same population density, with the same ethnic makeup, with the same economic makeup we have here. They have a rail line that runs right down the middle of those two areas. And they have a PACE bus system that supports their largest employers. In that area, they have 3,000 taxis. Here, we have less than 50 in Lake, Porter, and LaPorte County. They know how to run public transportation over there.
And I was making a small joke, but it's clear some people here use the Illinois system because it's easier to get around in Illinois than in Indiana. Is there anybody from NIRPC who could talk a little bit about the whole notion of whether or not you could go across state lines and just join a system that's far more well established and has its own funding source? Does PACE want Northwest Indiana?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think PACE did at one point cross the state line at some point,
They
right?
still do.
Still do?
They still run people from Gary to the UPS Center off of 55 and 294. They run a bus from Gary, from the Grant Street area.
The RBA was functioning, they did approach, when the RBA was functioning, they did approach transit organizations in Chicago and asked them if they would be interested in taking over the services in Northwest Indiana. The cost at that time was more than double what was currently being spent on all of our transportation systems. We couldn't afford what they wanted us to pay. That's why the RBA didn't go that direction.
There you go.
Thanks for raising the question. I mean, again, we're about trying to find ideas, and that's clearly trying to find a solution.
Hi, I'm Rudy Velasco. They had a Stronger City symposium in Gary, and they had the bus services from Illinois working, and they asked them about that, if they could give them some insight to the funding. The talk stopped right there when they asked them about it. I asked Ty, today, all these comments that are being used today, I think we need to get together with the communities. You have the elected officials when you have NIRPC meeting. If it takes, lock the door and show them what's happened today so they can get this settled. Because there's no reason they can't get their heads together and work this out. I don't know if you can have a special meeting, executive meeting. You have all the elected officials right there. They're on the commissioners, on the board. Why not use them? There's none of them. There's only a couple here today. But why not show them what happens here today so and let them see what happens? Because they need to get together and work this out. Thank you.
If I can talk really, yeah. Thank you, Rudy. And just so everybody knows what's happening with all this next, at the next NIRPC Commission meeting, which is currently scheduled for December 11th, but watch our website just because you never know, but it's scheduled for December 11th. This transcript and all this will be given to the NIRPC commissioners and forwarded to them and recapped of what was happening here today. So that's happening for the next NIRPC meeting. Who is next?
Hi, I think what this really comes down to is an issue of justice. Because I live in Cherville, we've got 2 cars. I can go anywhere I want. But there are plenty of folks who don't have that. They just don't. And they're being denied things that we take for granted because the powers that be, they don't have a voice with the powers that be. So that's why I'm here, is to learn how to be a voice for these folks. Because the stories you're hearing, that just shouldn't be. It's simply not right. And yeah, there's the elected officials and the Quality of Life Council and all that, and that's all well and good. But when you see people who are just trying to get by from day to day, and they're not able to do that, or else it's a struggle for them, then something's very wrong.
I just wanted to ask, you say you have 2 cars, you live in Cherville. If there was bus service, it was good bus service, like what they were talking about with Pace, would you use it?
Yeah.
Even with your 2 cars?
Oh, absolutely, because, we use cars because we have to. But from a traffic standpoint, a congestion standpoint, and certainly from an ecological standpoint, absolutely. It's just that there aren't buses out there to go anywhere.
With your neighbors out there in the suburbs?
Probably not. I can't say that entirely, but I think the majority of them probably wouldn't. And it's just because suburbs were built for cars. I mean, when you look at houses, what do you see first? You see the garage. And how many subdivisions don't even have sidewalks for people to walk on? So the suburbs were built for cars, so I think it would be a harder sell out there. But do I think that should let us stop? No, because that's where the opportunity is. And people say, well, why don't they get a job? Well, why don't they go to school? It's always finger pointing. Well, because they simply don't have the ability to access all of those opportunities. So I am all for a regional system that will allow people to do that. Because anything that affects anyone else affects me. We're all in this, though unfortunately with the fragmentation and the politics of this area, not everybody sees it that way by a long shot. But we are all in this together. Absolutely.
Thank you. Who's next? back there, the black shirt, right there.
Good evening. I'm here mostly to thank the township trustee. I am so grateful for Dial-A-Ride that is supplemented with AAA. For me, it's wonderful. I have tried, and sometimes successfully, to get other people to use it. They have trouble because they don't plan ahead. And sometimes they can't plan ahead. And that is one concern we need to look at. A second concern, now that we're using some of the technical capabilities of prompt service, when they call my home, I answer the phone and there is a long delay. I keep saying hello for quite a long time. And before I realized that I had to hang on, I thought it was somebody playing games, and I hung up. So I didn't get their messages. And I'm sure people who are new to that service might have the same problem. Now I just keep waiting. But I couldn't get to doctor's appointments, shopping, to volunteer, even to the library without Dial-A-Ride. And I'm so very grateful. Your staff tries so hard, and they are so kind and so patient and so cooperative that I would love to publicly thank every one of them.
Thank you.
Actually, since you, on the back of all those kudos, I'd actually like to ask you, you expanded greatly after the RVA, right?
We received a grant for $1.8 million over 3 years, which allowed us to expand.
3 years, you started to come up
Right,
at that deadline.
2015, it'll be a deadline, or if we run out of the money first.
So what's the status?
Status is the money's going quickly because we're providing a great number of rides because the volume has increased. So as I continually keep mentioning, in order to stretch that money, we have to bundle more riders on the buses to be able to bring our cost per ride down so that we could be more economical. Actually, I sat down with Chip, and I'm going to talk business for a second. We couldn't figure out a way how to reduce the amount of cancellations. So in a private, as your numbers go up, your cancellations go up. So you have to figure out a way to reduce your cancellations because that's money, basically, you're spending. People call for rides, AAA shows up, no one comes out of the house, there's a fee for that. That's a ride for someone else who may need one down the road. So what we're trying to do, and he actually led us down this path, is Dial-A-Ride takes out the first wave of riders. And so we're bundling more on the buses, getting them to their destination. We know they're riders, and then AAA brings them back. So that way we reduce our cancellations. Any dollar that we waste on a cancellation is wasted money that we can never get back. So we have increased our numbers, and to zero in on your question, the money's going quickly because the volume is there, and it is a constant reverse clicking clock in my mind to try and figure out what's next. Where are we going to get the funding? Because I took it on apprehensively, knowing that it was a limited amount of money. And there are only few funding options: a local option income tax, a wheel tax, or a beverage tax. That's from years of knowing what goes on. And there's no will for any of those. One of our hopes is to be able to latch on to the South Shore expansion and to have Congressman Disklowski, the RDA, NIRPC, and the current providers be able to begin figuring out a system to expand it. And Dial-A-Ride isn't exactly, the absolute perfect answer. We must perfect it on our own end and find more economical ways to provide that transportation. We can't pick up one person, take them on a bus, and bring them back. Our volume doesn't allow us to do that now anyway. But there's got to be an understanding on rider's side that you may be picked up for a ride at 8 o'clock and your destination is at 9:30. And that's so that we could loop around the 5 other streets and pick up 5 other people to take them there. So the money's running out. There's a sense of urgency to find a system or something in place. That's my responsibility. And when I say I was apprehensive, because when we go back to the 12,000 rides and we're still getting 48,000 phone calls, people are only going to remember that the North Township Dial Ride can't provide those rides anymore. They don't care where the funding came from. No one's going to ask me, where did that money go? We're no longer providing those rides. And so there are real people waiting in the balance of me making progress on that or the township making progress on that.
But what you're saying right now is you don't have a solution, at least right now, to replace that funding.
Looking you square in the eye, I do not have a solution. I've met with the Indiana Department of Transportation. I met with Congressman Misklowski's office. I've met with the RVA. I've met with NIRPC. All I can tell you is it's a work in progress. And I understand that I'm on the line and the township's on the line because once the grant, by design, the grant is to elevate your service to provide proof that it works. So we have to do everything efficiently. We have to do everything on an economy of scale. We have to charge a fee, and then we have to go to the table and say, this is what we've done. We've used private and public partnerships. We used technology the highest level technology that we can to do our dispatch, and we've done everything we can efficiently to provide these rides. Now that we have proven that, we have to find funding somewhere. And it's only the local match, the 20% that everyone's talking about. Then we have to go and find federal funding. And NIRPC has to assist us on that. And there's not only one, because I know this, there's not only one demand service. This is very localized because we are here in North Township, but there's South Lake that provides 49,000 rides. There's Portage, Bruce was here earlier, that provides 10,000 to 12,000 rides. And there is Opportunity Enterprises that provides a lot more rides than we do. So we're all in the same boat. It is providing a product, having a political and social will to have public transportation, and for everyone to get on board and say that the outcomes of the benefit far outweigh the naysayers.
All right. Well, that gives you an idea what the status is right now. That service is very popular, especially at the RVA.
Hello again. I want to address the issue of prompt. I think that was the best thing that could have happened because before you were limited for the time you could call to get a ride. Now it's 24/7. It's fantastic. Yes, there's a little bit of a wait when you do go on, but here's the plus side. When you find the information about your ride, it's all recorded. You get to confirm it right then and there. So the system is really, really going well. I would like to address Pace Bus. Pace Bus is running through Lansing. They have paratransit service. Just what the deal is, I don't really know. It would have to be looked into. And as far as dental, in our area here, just a few months ago, we had regional mental health open up right across from the library. They will help people with dental and even provide you with the transportation to come and go on their own bus. And I want to speak a little bit about Gary, because when Gary came in where I live, I have both the Gary buses on my route. It's fantastic going down Michigan. But when they brought that bus down to the East Chicago train station and brought it down Michigan, they took that route away from people like Miss Alice here, who was using it because it went past the Hammond South Shore train station. So there needs to be a way that Gary can take in a little bigger route to service people, because everybody from Michigan going is stranded. They're just stranded. They have no way of getting around. And another thing I'd like to say, I'd like to give an invite, and first of all, I want to give a thank you to Lakeshore Public Media for coming out here, but I want to give you an invite that can help all of us greatly. Come on out. Start filming. I'm sure many, many people who are walking these sidewalks, and especially your elderly, your disabled, when it's payday, their checks come in. Come on out and talk to these people and tell them how comfortable it is, ask them what they're going through. Help us out that way. Let the word get out there how desperately we need fixed transportation in this area. Thank you.
Who's next?
Hello, I'm Sandy O'Brien from Hobart, Indiana, and also from Sierra Club. And I've been going to NIRPC meetings forever, so I know that public transit needs a local match. And that is the big problem around here. We don't have the local match. I also thank Lakeshore Public Radio for coming out. That's wonderful. I thank Mr. Van for working as hard as he can to get public transit in North Township, and GPTC for working as hard as they can to keep transit going in Gary and expanding out of Gary with their out-of-city runs. And thank Mr. Ty Warner and Brian Snedecor, the president of NIRPC board, for coming, because NIRPC really needs to know that we need bus transit. We need paratransit for disabled people that can't use a bus. And we need plain old bus transit for people that need to go to school, need to go to jobs. I know a fair number of people that can't drive, either because they have epilepsy or can't see well enough or have drunk driving convictions or whatever. You know, there's a lot of people that can't drive. And there's an awful lot of people that are driving on suspended licenses too. You know, they get caught all the time. You go to court and find out how many there are. And it's a matter of justice, and it's a matter of economic development for our whole region, because all these people that are stranded and unable to go to work and get proper jobs and stuff like that and go to school, they're held back and they're not being productive citizens. So it's a matter of justice, like the lady before me said, and we need to find the local match. And I'm just totally amazed that all the public officials in municipalities, almost to a one, except maybe Hammond, they all lined up like sheep to the slaughter to send money for the commuter rail expansion, when really that costs probably 4 times as much as regional bus transit would cost. Nobody puts the figures out, but I think it's probably about 4 times as much. So that we should be demanding regional bus transit before commuter rail expansion, because commuter rail expansion is really a further vacuuming out of the northern commuter rail line. You know, it is just like St. Mary Medical Center. When I first started working there, it was just a little satellite hospital, and Gary Mercy Hospital was in Gary, and that was the main hospital, but it didn't take long before Gary Hospital was no more. And I think that's GPTC's greatest fear too, that they joined the regional bus system pretty soon. Gary wouldn't have any money anymore. So, you know, there's regional issues of wealth and poverty, or north and south, or however you want to talk about it, but it's there, and we need to think about the good of all the region, because what happens in the north cities goes to the first ring suburbs, and it goes beyond. You know, there's problems everywhere now. So we can't just bury our heads in the sand. We need to fight for justice and economic development, and regional bus transit is part of it for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I see that Dennis Rittenmeyer left, and I'm sorry because I want to say something in response to what his perception was about why the RBA failed. I think that the best thing that we can do is learn from the RBA's failure. Young lady over there was talking about the situation that many of her clients are in, the real life or death situation. And Steve, when you asked her, what are those people doing? Unconsciously, I said aloud, they're dying. And the reason because they are. And the connection between that thought and the RBA was, we found that the RBA failed to recognize the seriousness of the issues these people face. Somebody here, I think Mr. Mervan was talking about Raymond Fletcher. There was an RBA board meeting and Raymond Fletcher pointed out that people were dying waiting for a resolution. A couple of the board members thought that was funny. There was a meeting similar to this a few years back, although the difference is you weren't facilitating it, so this is a much better meeting. But there was a meeting in which one RBA board member, throughout the whole meeting, there's a videotape on our website, was reading a paperback book while the people were talking. And so that lack of recognition of the importance of the people's issues, that lack of recognition of the need to involve the public, not just give lip service to it, but make sure they know about these opportunities. We have to learn that whoever goes forward, whether it's the BLT, the VLP, whatever it is, you've got to involve the people, not just say that you are. And so I'm going to ask NIRPC, we only have 2 elected officials here, and God bless both of you for being here all day. Can I ask you, number one, can you commit to doing this at least annually? Can you talk about putting a survey up online? Use the people, use public radio, use the folks that are out there. As you know, our strongest criticism was what we said was your lack of effort to truly engage the public, the people we think are the stakeholders. Everybody here belongs to an organization, gets services from an organization, some way. There's a whole network in Northwest Indiana. Let them help you get the people on board, because if you get the people on board, you'll get the money. Right on to so, we're kind of a rough bunch up here in Northwest City, a little rough edges. So don't assume because somebody isn't talking the way you want to hear them talk that they can't be of value to you. So I'm going to ask you, can you at least at your next meeting, whatever, can you talk to your elected officials? Make sure they understand the level of importance, the passion that you heard today, the potential resource that these people are to you. So use the network that's already in place and let us help. Thanks.
Who's next? Anybody who hasn't spoken yet? People coming out here weekday night? Go home, are you? Okay. Anybody else who hasn't spoken? Oh, I'm sorry. You turned me around the wrong way.
Hi, my name is Stephanie and I live in North Hammond. And like this lady here said, we have to walk almost 2 miles to get to the Gary bus at Strachan Hills. And that's kind of hard, especially when, myself, I just had back surgery in June. And I'm not supposed to do a lot of walking because of the surgery. And they told me it's going to take 6 months to a year before my back will completely heal. And my other concern is we have children. And there's one school out of the city of Hammond that does not provide bus transportation, and that is Hammond High School, due to the violence and the way the children act and the way the staff is and the school city of transportation. These children are walking to school at 6 o'clock in the morning to make it to school before they get into a lockout at 7:20. They walk 2.5 miles because they will not provide bus service. And these children, they counted on the Hammond Transit or the regional transit to get back and forth to school every day, and now they don't have that. So when we have bitter temperatures and the city of Hammond doesn't call off school, these kids are walking in below zero weather, and that's another reason we need our buses back.
The woman here, she was saying that it was 1.5 miles, but you're saying it's 2.5 miles?
Oh, it's 1.5, sorry about that. But it's still, 6 o'clock in the morning, anything can happen.
Right.
Exactly.
Hi, my name is Elsie Ashley, and she's exactly right. I live in North Hammond. As a matter of fact, we all live on the same block. Both my daughter and her 2 boys, they do go to Hammond High, and my daughter wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning every morning just to make sure that she's ready and out the door. They walk over 2 bridges. a set of railroad track, you know, it's not the greatest of neighborhoods that they gotta walk through. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not a matter of, you know, you've got the winter seasons coming up, you know, they've got, okay, it's gonna be below zero. You're gonna have knee-deep snow, you know, and she's right. What parent wants to send their child out in that type of weather to walk that far? You know, you're walking up these bridges, you know, it takes a lot to walk over these big bridges. Can you imagine if there's ice on there, the snow? That's a hazard. We have to worry about our children and it being a hazard going over those bridges, going over those railroad tracks at those conditions. Okay? You've got pouring down storming rain. My daughter went to school one day. By the time she got to school, she was soaking wet. Her shoes were even squishing. She calls home and says, "Mom, I'm completely soaked." What choice did I have to do but to tell her, because I don't have transportation for her, "Sarah, come home. You can't be in school like that. They're going to get sick. They could have worse." You know, the other things, you know, I agree with you ladies. You can't, it's a hard situation getting to and from doctor's appointments. When you've got, you know, you're elderly, you're disabled, you've got children that, you know, have mental, you know, disabilities. The schooling, you know, getting to stores, you know, transportation for that is bad. You know, job opportunities. I have a very big struggle with job opportunities because I have limited transportation as to jobs that I can get to. If I'm not in walking distance to a job that I can apply for, or if I can't get to some type of transportation that'll get me to a job, guess what? I'm stuck with no job. And it's not fair. You know, and I don't want to be disrespectful and put anybody down in a situation, but to me it feels like instead of everyone helping us trying to get the bus transportation, to help the ones that are in need that don't have the money or the means that some people do, and this is going to sound harsh and I'm not trying to, but to me it sounds like the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer and nobody's throwing under the bus. Under the bus, you know, and I'm all for and I support all the people who have money, who have good jobs, who have good homes and good lives and have transportation. That's great. You know, it's wonderful. But the ones that don't have that type of, you know, situation, it's a struggle. And all we're asking is just for a little bit of help. That's it.
You said that everybody was all three of you are on the same block. What made you all decide to come down here today?
For me personally, I recently fractured my ribs. So I need transportation because I don't like to keep calling the Dollar Rap because I feel like the elderly need it a little bit more, and I know money is stretched. If we had a bus transportation system, I wouldn't have to worry about it. It's odd to me, and I keep hearing people stressing about the Gary public transportation. Gary shouldn't have to take on a whole nother city. Hammond is its own city. It has its own funding. It shouldn't have to do that. We had a busing system. You stopped it. And then I keep hearing people say about finding money. It's odd to me, East Chicago has a bus system and it's free to ride their bus. You pay nothing. And they have 3 different buses. But you took our busing system and you tell us we got to get jobs. You study raise the rent. The cost of living is steady going up in the city of Hammond. But you give us no type of alternatives in order to survive what you're giving us.
Hi, I just have a real specific question about a little thing, because these stories about the kids who are in school, trying to stay in school, and what they have to go through, it's breaking my heart and it's scaring me on their behalf, so God bless all of you. But I'm just wondering, and this really is a question, I could well be wrong, and if so, I need to know that, but I think schools reimburse, or schools get federal funding or state funding, maybe not in Indiana, I'm not as familiar as with Illinois, but I think some of it is based on attendance. And so in this bad weather, you probably do have to keep the kids home sometimes. So attendance is down, so their numbers are down. So I'm wondering if one small piece, maybe it's not part of public transit, but school transit, which is different. But I wonder if they need to be approached and talked about the cost of providing bus transit versus how much they lose from the reduced attendance. That was just the only thing, because this is just killing me.
You got the answer.
I was so answer that because I called the Hammond School Transportation, and it was told to me because I was wondering why Clark had so many school buses, and Hammond High only has one school bus.
What is Clark?
Clark is another Hammond High School.
Oh, okay.
But it's in Whiting.
Clark is a middle high school, but it's it's considered a Hammond public school.
It's Hammond.
But it has a Whiting
Exactly, it's
accent.
Hammond.
It's in Hammond.
Okay.
But it was told to me that the funding for the funding is coming from a different place for Clark Middle School, High School, as opposed to where funding is coming for Hammond High School. And then it was told to me that the funding was cut short for Hammond High School because they were taking on other projects. So when I started inquiring about these other projects, that's when everything started getting short. Nobody had answers. I had to go to this office or talk to this person or go and talk to this person. So me being the person that I was, I told the school board of transportation that when the weather is bad and my sons miss as many days as they miss, do not send the police or the truancy to my house, because then I'm going to sue because you put me in this position. It should be way more buses for these kids.
I have to say that I agree with her on the whole bus situation, because when we did call the school city of transportation, they told us it wasn't their problem. And it's not just Hammond High, it's Eggers Middle School that does not have transportation. Now, my son has transportation because he's special needs. And everybody's like, well, that's not fair. You live in North Hammond and he goes all the way to a South Hammond school. But the only reason he has the transportation is because he's in a special needs class.
It's federal.
So and that's also federal funding. Now, my thing is about Hammond High is they say that they don't have the money for the transportation, but just recently they bought every single student in that school Google Mac computers. Now, that funding for those computers could have went on transportation instead of these kids walking in bitter weather.
I'm going to add to this because she's absolutely correct, okay? My daughter just doesn't only go to Hammond High. She goes to the Hammond Area Career Center as well. She goes to Hammond High for her first part of her day, and then after her first part of the day there, her second part of the day, she walks from Hammond High to the Area Career Center, and she does her medical terminology and her physiology classes there as well. So, I mean, I agree with, with Ms. Robertson, you've got kids that are doing extremely well, and they're struggling on a daily to try to, get good grades and have perfect attendance and make something of themselves. And it just seems like, when you try to talk to the proper authority and people and stuff, to try to get the help, you talk to the schools, not our problem. You talk to the transit, the bus transit, not our problem. You try to talk to your school officials, not our problem. Okay, well, whose problem is it then? Whose problem is it going to be when these children who are doing so well and have 3.5 and 4.0 grade averages and AV honor roll students can't get to school because they don't have transportation and their grades start failing and their perfect attendance starts failing? Who's going to be there for them? And she's right, they're going to look at us parents as, well, you're not making your child go to school, then you got to go to court, and you're facing fines, and you're facing jail time and truancy. Why? Because we can't afford it. We can't afford to get our children where they need to be, and we don't have the help to do it. She also brought up another good point. Hammond High is not the only one. Egger is too, okay? Next year, my son will be going to Eggers. He is 6th grade. He will have to walk with his sister to go to school. He has a mental disability. he doesn't have the type of class formatting and stuff in that as her son does, where he's able to get the bus transportation. But, you know, he does have a mental disability to where, you know, it kind of scares me, you know, for him to be walking a 1.5 mile distance. Is it safe for him to do that? You know, when you're taking ADHD and bipolar medication, to me, that's not a safe thing to do, you know? So, I mean, there's so many things that, you know, we can sit here and we can discuss and we can tell you and sad stories and everything else, but the moral of the story is she's absolutely right. We need a voice. We need somebody or everyone that can pull together and help us get a voice. Because if we can't voice our opinions and say what we need and have somebody help us get what we need, we're not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay the same, and we might as well just shut down and not say nothing.
We made the turn in here. We're into the last half hour. And I never really thought about it. You think about healthcare, and you think about jobs, and you never really think about education, that aspect. Who else hasn't spoken yet? Come on, came all the way out here. It's not that cold. All right.
Hello, I'm Linda, and I don't usually tell people where I work because I work at the Division of Family Resources, aka welfare. Everybody hates me. But anyway, I just wanted to mention about, like you, the clients that we serve, they can't even get to downtown Hammond to our office because there's no buses. I have people walking, I have people riding their bikes, it's just insane. But one of the things that's caused me to come here tonight is that a lot of the food stamp, it's called SNAP now, a lot of the rules are starting to change again. And the federal government instituted a thing a few years back that Indiana has had a waiver from, and specifically our area, because we don't have transportation. We have not required people that are able-bodied able to work and don't have dependent children. Most of them have to work 20 hours a week. Indiana's getting ready to make us start doing that again. They said November, it's not happening. We don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to be soon. And they're going to have that anybody who doesn't have children, that's between, I think, 18 and 49 years old, will have to be working 20 hours a week, or else they will only get SNAP benefits for 3 months in a 36-month period. That means that a lot of folks are going to lose their benefits because they can't get to a job. They can't keep the job because they can't keep going to the job. And it's one of the things that's been weighing on my mind is a lot of the clients really do want to work. Some of them really want to work, but they can't get to the job. If they get a job, they can't keep the job because the car breaks down, nobody's there to help them out. And people, when you call off of work now, you don't get a second chance. They just say don't even come in tomorrow, a lot of these businesses. So I just wanted to let the regional agency know that this is another thing to keep in mind as you're considering what to do with the regional transportation, because we're going to have a lot more people that are going to be in a desperate need of transportation just because of the SNAP rules changing and things going like that. And then also, you know, with the TANF, people are supposed to be working. We have Impact in our office that tries to help folks, but if they can't get to the job, we can give them, you know, the little tokens for the bus, but if there's no bus for those tokens, they're not going to be able to get that job and keep that job. So that's what I wanted to tell you.
How many of your clients, they're just not working because they can't get to a job? I mean, is that really?
We don't have caseloads anymore, so I don't have a specific group of people that I work with all the time, but probably about 20% of them are wanting to work that they can't keep a job because they don't have a car or they don't have reliable transportation, they don't have family members who can get them back and forth. If they find a job near their house, that's great, but that's not always going to happen.
A lot of people, they talk about food deserts when you don't have a grocery store nearby. They're kind of work deserts.
Work deserts, that's a good, I like that. Yeah, we can get them the food, and then I'm worrying about those folks that are not going to get the benefits. Where are they going to turn to a township trustee to get food because we can't give them SNAP anymore for 3 years? And then the food pantries are gonna again get overwhelmed again, and it's just gonna be a skyrocketing problem. South Bend's getting ready to start this in January, I believe. So we're looking to see, and South Bend has a really good transportation system, so we're looking to see how it's gonna go over there. I don't know when Lake County is gonna be pulled into that mess for these able-bodied people. So,
Stay tuned.
yep, thank you.
All right, who hasn't spoken? Who hasn't gotten a chance? Among these folks that have all come out on this weekday evening, who hasn't gotten a chance to speak? Here we go. A transit provider.
I got 3 minutes. Okay. I got a bus vacation. My name is Frank Rosado, Francisco Rosado Jr. I'm the Director of Transit for the City of East Chicago. And I've been back in transit. This is my third go-around in transit for the City of East Chicago. Since I've been back, Teresa's group, Everybody Counts, Gary, East Chicago, North Township Trustee's Office, we meet monthly to discuss issues of transit and our riders. It's a month ago, earlier this month, we met and we were trying to figure out how we can get the powers that be, the legislators and stuff like that, information that we care about public transportation in Northwest Indiana. I came up with a really simple idea of putting a petition online. So I put it up about halfway through the month, and I've got about 100 people that have signed up for it. I've had about 800 people that have viewed it. I don't know if that's good or bad. But let me tell you that if you want to sign this petition, you can go to Gary Public Transportation, its website, East Chicago, City of East Chicago, eastchicago.com, go to the bus transit site, and there'll be information on how you can go there, okay? Also on Teresa's organization's website also. So maybe that's a way for some of our legislators or the powers that be, that's the way they'll find out what we need to let them know, okay? And also to the gentleman that mentioned the East Chicago buses not having bike racks, they'll have bike racks by next year.
We solved the problem. So who else do we have here who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? I know we've got some folks here that want to take a second crack here, and we've got a little bit of time for that, but who hasn't had a chance? Every time I turn around, ma'am, did you want to speak?
The only question I have, I will.
Oh, come on.
Let the mic, let me get my, where you want to get to.
Let everybody hear it.
Hi, my name is Carol Ventus. I'm from North Hammond. I became disabled back in 2007 from a tragic car accident. But my question is, when we did have the bus service, where was our money going that we were sticking in the change thing? That's what I want to know.
You when it was the RBA, when in Hammond, the Hammond bus service, where was it going?
Basically what she's saying is she wants to know when the services were going through and everybody was getting on the buses and they were paying what they were supposed to pay to get on the buses, where was all that money going if there's no money for the buses?
The service wasn't free, people were paying their fares. How does that work?
So if I understand the question, it's what happened to that money? When it was being collected, it was helping spend that, helping support that system. They have the federal money and that requires a match. So the fares were part of the match that supported the Hammond bus system as long as it operated.
How much of the total cost of providing transportation, how much of that is fare box? How much of that?
Oh, not statewide. I mean, just in our area, less than 30%. Buses are highly subsidized, just like the highways are. What you drive your car on is just as subsidized as public transit. yeah, I mean, if you remember the pie charts we were showing earlier, you know, there's no one source of money that pays 100% for public transit. So you need multiple sources. And when somebody goes out of business, you know, then the fees aren't collected anymore, and so the local match disappears. And that's what happened with the RBA. The local match disappeared.
So basically what you're saying is that all the people that were riding these public transits and the money that they were paying was going in to help fund the transportation, and if one side didn't match, well, if you've got all the people that are actually paying their money to ride the bus transportations and the transit, then obviously that would say the people aren't the one that are lacking the money or the funding. Who's lacking the funding?
I don't remember what the RBA cost was. Let me see if I can give you an example. Well, if it takes, you know, $180,000 to run a system, and you're pulling in maybe $3,000 in fares, and then you get 50% of the rest of the cost is a federal grant, and maybe 10% is a state. You still have that local money you have to keep raising every year. You needed to come in every year. When the Regional Development Authority, the RDA, you know, they only committed to funding the Regional Bus Authority, they only committed 2 years of operating money. That was what created that system, and that's what made it go. They were getting funding also from the city of Hammond at that time. The mayor made that commitment. But, you know, the object was to come up with a permanent funding source before that money ran out. What was going to replace what came out of the Development Authority, but there was never the political agreement or the popular will, frankly, to save it, to come up with it and give, you know, whether it was property tax based or whether it was going to be some other source of funding. Dennis mentioned, you know, he'd been working on this for over 10 years. You know, we went to the county council a long time ago to ask about hotel motel tax being dedicated to fund a Lake County regional transit system. And the hotel motel people and the tourism bureau people said, no, that's not a good source, it's not appropriate, and so we got nowhere with that. And nobody's had a better idea since then.
So basically, how much did a ride in the RVA cost? When it hit? About 25? I think what?
Adult, no, like adult.
So it's about 25 a ride? 60 cents for handicap. I think what she's saying is it cost $10 a ride. So that money was coming from, the rest of the money was coming from somewhere else. Okay. Hang on, we got another question.
Okay, I understand what you're saying about the matching of the state funds to the box, the fare box. My question is, well, the fares that they have in Whiting, the ones they do at Harrison Park, and all these other events that they do, is that not state money? Is that not county money? Does that not count towards the budget?
Does not count toward, you mean the
Any of the events that they do in Hammond, none of it counts?
No.
Wow.
So what are they doing with it then?
They're using it for different things. I'm not sure that I don't want to misunderstand and make trouble for Hammond that I don't need to.
So you're saying the other things that the city provides, those services?
What I'm asking is, the money that they pay, like the concerts that they have down there at the grounds, the little events that they have, like UC Matt McDermott at all these events. And what I want to know is, none of that money is contributed or can be contributed toward the busing company, toward the busing system, or toward North Township or any other helping program?
We want to Oh, well, okay, I just want to say that, you know, a dedicated source of revenue, you know, means that it's every year, raised every year, and it goes exclusively to public transit. It's like street maintenance. Every year you want the streets plowed. So every year the city budgets X amount of dollars, and that pays the street plowing. And it comes from a variety of sources, whether it's you know, profit from Wolf Lake Summerfest, or whether it's all property tax based. You know, the city budgeting process, you know, dedicates those funds to all these things that are provided by the city. It's just, at the moment, it doesn't include any public transit.
I think the answer is yes. The city makes choices like every city does. Pick up the garbage.
It's a matter of you know, public policy setting is done, you know, at cities and towns and counties all the time. And the budget process tells you, you know, what the city's priorities are, what they're spending money on, what they want to spend, what they can spend money on. Whether it includes transit or not, that's part of the public policy decision making.
All right, we've got Teresa's hand up, but we'll probably begin. All right, Teresa.
This is specific to the situation in Hammond. I think that when we talk about the city's priority, there's the city, there's the people, and there's the city, there's the elected officials. Many of us were there. What happened was very simple. The mayor of Hammond, who I don't like to talk about people behind their backs, but he ought to be here, so, you know, it's not my problem. But the mayor said directly to every one of your councilmen, if you vote and put 1 penny towards public transportation, I will veto the budget. So you know, that doesn't mean that even the elected officials of Hammond were not in support of the transit system. That's what happened. I wish Gary was here, Gary Public Transit, to give you the specific number, but I can tell you that they already developed a plan a long time ago on how much money it would take to add routes in North Township. I don't remember the number, but it was incredibly low. So the only way that's going to happen is if you get the city of Hammond to provide some assistance. So take your concerns to your elected officials, to your councilmen, go to the meetings, go to the mayor. Because again, the services are sitting right there for you in North Township. Your kids don't have to be walking through the snow. But it's going to take, and I don't remember the figure, but it's incredibly low. They provided the service that they started in Hammond. It would just take that much to add it in North Township. I mean, in North Hammond, okay? But they're not going to be able to do it unless somebody in the city of Hammond says, that's as important as having the rock bands come out to the park. That's going to take that. That's going to take you guys telling them that. And how? Pick up the phone, write a letter, go to the meetings, and don't be afraid to get labeled troublemakers, because it hasn't hurt us a bit. The other thing is, Ms. Petruska, I want to speak about her comment about the visitors folks didn't want to support the tax. It wasn't just the folks at South Shore Visitor and Convention Center that did not support that tax going to the RBA. There's a whole lot of other folks, our agency included. So, I mean, I don't want to see aspersions cast on one group. Because a lot of people thought that wasn't a good idea. And they made it clear, we're not saying that a regional transit system isn't a good idea. This particular mechanism isn't. I think you have the information, you have the support, you have the evidence that the support is there. The question is going to be, what do you do to give that information to the people that can make it happen? That's the real question of the day.
All right, we're coming down to the home stretch here. We really have time for only really 1 or 2 more comments. Love to get to anybody who hasn't had a chance, or maybe they're only on their 2nd round at this point. Fellow that runs the taxi cabs, let's try it.
Just so you have a feel for what the costs are, there's a publication the state of Indiana puts out, and the national government also puts out. It talks about the cost of transit. The cost of running a bus per rider in Hammond, East Chicago, and Gary is about $10 a rider. What that means is if you pay $1 for a fare, you're paying about 10% of that cost. In Chicago, because they're more efficient in pace, because they're more efficient, they cost about $5 per rider because they have more riders per bus. They pay $2.50 a ride, which means their local match is actually not provided by taxes, but by the riders that get on the bus. Okay? Same thing with the South Shore. South Shore costs $10 a rider. You should pay $5 to get into Chicago. Your local match is provided by the fare of what comes on here. The other thing, this I am not sure of, but I think I read somewhere where the Affordable Care Act says that insurance companies are supposed to provide transportation for people trying to get to a doctor's office. I've been looking for this spot for months, but that thing is so big I can't find it in there. Okay, but I think it's in there, because I was briefed on it one time in a briefing on what the Affordable Care Act is supposed to cover. So you may want to call the insurance company and say, will you provide transportation, or will you provide repayment for transportation if I give you a receipt? So in other words, you don't have to depend on a bus. You can call the taxi company, and they may charge you $30 to go from, or $50 to go from Hammond to Crown Point, and an insurance company should reimburse that money. The last thing I wanted to say is I carry a couple of people that should be eligible for paratransit. And they allow bus companies to take 21 days to answer whether they can be available for that. That 21 days means they're not working for 21 days. That's 21 days they're not they're not contributing to the economy because they're at home because they can't get a ride. Or they're paying money to me, and literally they're paying whatever they're making to the taxi company. And that's not how it should be. I don't want buses here so that, how do you want to say it? I'm not going to make money off buses, but what it does is it allows people that don't have a lot of money, that really should never be taking taxis to go to work, to take taxis to work 20 days out of the month, and then call me once a month to go to the grocery store. That's why I support public transit.
All right, yep. Rudy, you might be the last word on this.
Well, I'll make it real quick. First, I want to thank the young lady who provided caption for, I believe, for the news show, for volunteered for that. I'd like to thank her. And another important thing, I hope that NIRPC, the list that all the people that signed up today, that they are included on your stakeholders list. Because everybody here today, all day, made that effort to speak up. And I applaud every one of you for that. Give yourselves a nice applause. Because you did a better job. And that's the only way these barriers are going to be broken. Because this is an industrial region, 20% of the people in here are disabled. So thank you very much.
One more quick statement over here.
I just wanted to say one quick thing. I wanted to thank North Township for bringing all the people out of North Hammond here tonight to voice their opinion on this meeting and the regional bus system. Thank you, North Township.
Does anyone know if the period of transportation is going to be extended north Hammond, obviously, or Martin area?
The question is whether or not Gary public transportation will be extended to the North Hammond. That seems to be a question that's
I could answer that.
You can answer that question?
Yes.
Take a shot.
I could answer that personally. We met with everybody council. I met with the mayor of Whiting, and Gary Transit is now talking to Whiting. So it's a possibility, and one of the most important things all these transit services are doing is stopping at the colleges, because that's the way we can really improve our area, is through education. But yes, there is something down the line possibly going to Whiting.
Well, I think that's where we're going to end it here. I've been here since 1 o'clock. Many of us here have been here since 1 o'clock. It's been an experience. I have really enjoyed this conversation. So many people so passionate about this issue. It makes you wonder why more hasn't been done sooner, honestly. I want to thank our hosts. I want to thank NIRPC and Ty Warner for having me, as well as Teresa Torres for having me be the moderator here. I'm losing my voice, sorry. No, this was a great experience. I'm glad I got the chance to do it. If you want to hear the show that was done at 4 o'clock, that's going to be on Lakeshore Public Radio tomorrow at 1 o'clock during my normal time. In the meantime, just thanks everybody for coming out.